For Reaper Metal Productions, I am Adam of Unbaptized Records, making a brand new video for you today. Today is going to be, I believe, part 4 of my Guilty Pleasures series, Metal Edition. I have 2 more parts to come, so part 4 and part 5, and I think that's about it. Pretty much scoured my entire CD collection, and vinyl collection really only includes bands and albums that I've already showed you on CD, but I have the record as well, so there's really no need to repeat myself at all. But I have 2 more videos, this one and the next, to do Guilty Pleasures Metal Edition, and I have an entire bag of CDs here of, I guess, the non-metal Guilty Pleasures. Another bag full of CDs that are black metal and black metal adjacent, so some Black Death, I guess, not really black thrash, but, well, you'll see. Certain bands that kind of, hard to determine exactly where they fit, and then a few war metal bands as well, so I kind of feel like they fit into the black metal category. I didn't think I had as many as I did, especially the pure straight black metal. I only have a couple, so that's why I threw in some of the other ones as well. But this video is going to be very interesting. I know I'm going to get a lot of definitely interesting opinions in the comments for sure, but these are definitely my albums. I definitely own them. I'll fully admit to having them and listening to them. So just prepare yourself. It'll be quite the ride with some of my guilty pleasures in this video and the next. And then also, just so everyone knows, I do now have a membership. Look in the comments section, or sorry, the description of this video and all the other videos. I have 3 layers. First one is just, you know, getting your name in the shout outs, having badges and everything. And then level 2, for $5 a month, you're going to get exclusive shorts probably about once a week. And then for $10 a month, if you're so inclined to do so, you'll get exclusive videos. So member exclusive videos, and then member exclusive shorts, and the rest for everyone at the top tier. So the higher you go up, the more everything's included. So all the stuff in the previous tiers are included. But you know, if you're not interested, that's fine too. I expect most people not to be. Just continue watching the videos and throwing in comments, because that's really what matters the most. The only reason you would do the channel membership, if you really feel like it, just so you know, it's going to be just giving me some guaranteed money to put towards my Unbaptized Records label. That's essentially it. I mean, it's just going to fund the channel. Obviously, I only use a phone and sometimes a lapel mic, so there really isn't much, but even for things like traveling, eventually getting interviews, it's just going to help putting some money towards that. A couple of bucks a month. It's not a lot, just some gas money, but it's definitely going to help. And even for like funding to buy new music, albums I wanted to review that I don't own yet. But mostly, really, it's just going to be about funding this channel, keeping it going, and getting my record label started. So the first release here, first band, I have 2 CDs. It is, I guess, you consider early metalcore / hard rock. And that's the band Avenged Sevenfold. So we have 2 releases here. This one seems to be the self-titled, and then this one is called, I don't know, it's a freaking cursive, can't read it, Sounding the Seventh Trumpet. So this is a band that I listened to a bit in high school. This got me into, I guess, just the alternative music, and I enjoy pretty much the first, I'd say, 4 releases by them, and after that I kind of broke off, which is it kind of makes sense, because that was about the time when I started listening to the heavier stuff that existed. So definitely not your Avenged Sevenfold. But I guess a funny story about this band is when I bought my first car. I was 15 and a half. I had some money saved up. And as soon as I turned 16, I knew I immediately wanted to get my permit. So I put in a ton of hours driving, practicing. I always wanted to just get my license as soon as possible. And the guy who sold me his car, he was a couple years older than me, and he had this really cool CD player that had music that you could like build into it, I guess, maybe upload it with a flash drive or something. And I remember he listened to mostly rap and stuff, which is fine, whatever. And even then, I was just kind of like into the hard rock stuff. I mean, really listening to like Korn and Job for a Cowboy. That was like kind of the first music I listened to in that car. But I remember I was like, well, yeah, I kind of like hard rock and heavy metal and stuff. He's like, yeah, sure, let me see what I got. And what he had was Avenged Sevenfold, but he was so out of the loop. I mean, if you think people who listen to Avenged Sevenfold are out of the loop, he called Avenger Sevenfold, so he didn't even know how to spell it. So, I mean, that guy is definitely not into metal, which arguably if you're into Avenged, you're not really necessarily into metal. But this was the early days of me getting into the music. A few other bands, like one I don't have here, but I did listen to, similar vein of like the early metalcore, would have been All That Remains. Listened to a few of their albums, but yeah, some early Avenged is okay. I mean, it's fine. Again, it's nothing to like shout in the streets, and I'm not gonna die on that hill saying that Avenged is metal or not. I don't really care if you think they are. I call them hard rock, call them whatever you want. But I definitely can admit that I enjoy the first few albums, and they're the gateway drug that got me into the heavier stuff. So, okay, maybe they're not metal, maybe they are, whatever. Guilty pleasure, most people don't admit to liking them, that's fine. But for me, they got me into the heavier stuff I listen to now. So if it wasn't for Avenged 20 years ago, then maybe I wouldn't have the Caustic Phlegm CD in my hand as of today, or listening to whatever else, newer, older, anywhere from Venom and Black Sabbath all the way up to, the newest stuff, the Pharmacist and the Caustic Phlegms and Spiders and all that. So, gotta give credit for where credit is due, at least in that case. Next is a band that I guess would be considered a guilty pleasure, because a lot of people, especially in the extreme metal scene, don't seem to like this kind of music. But this is a power metal, as Reaper would call it, reach for the skies power metal, as you can tell because there's a freaking dragon on the front. That is the band Rhapsody from Italy. I have 2 releases here. This, I believe, is a compilation. It's called Tales from the Emerald Sword Saga. So it looks like it's got a bunch of releases, because it's got 16 songs. It just kind of looks like a comp to me, from what I remember. Best of compilation, so that makes sense. And then this is just sort of promo CD, and I believe I actually bought this one from Travis Ryan of Cattle Decapitation on his Discogs page. But they're really known for, I don't know if you can see it here, it's really tiny script, but they'll do parts to their songs. So they'll do part 1, part 2, part 3. It'll be a 15-minute song. Super epic, Lord of the Rings-y, Dungeons and Dragons type stuff. I've said before, I enjoy this stuff. I enjoy folk metal. I enjoy power metal. Another band will come up later that I've mentioned before that falls into this category. Another band I like too, especially the really early stuff, is Sonata Arctica. Very similar vibe to this. Definitely not a lot of people in the underground listening to it, but I enjoy it. So I think it's great. That I'm totally unashamed of. And then this is an interesting side version of the band. So this is specifically Luca Turilli's Rhapsody. This is a little bit different than the power metal Rhapsody that I was showing before. So this was a split from the band. This album's called Prometheus. This is a little bit less of a power metal album and more symphonic metal. It almost kind of reminds me of Trans-Siberian Orchestra in a way, which they kind of hinge on the hard rock metal style, I guess. But imagine super operatic music from the people who did Rhapsody back in the day, some of the members. That's essentially what this is, and I actually really, really enjoy it. One of my favorite songs is called Rosenkreuz, or The Rose and the Cross. Also Signo Nero, and I believe this is almost all in Latin as well. Not just the titles, but I think a lot of the music is as well. Not completely, because even the song I mentioned, there's definitely a decent amount of English. But, my ignorance on this is kind of shown, but it's either Italian or Latin. I can't really tell. I don't speak either, and I know Latin's a dead language, but it's pretty cool. So if you're really into operatic music, you want to give that a shot. It's metal adjacent. I enjoy it, so definitely worth a check out there. Last but not least is a band that in and of itself is very much in the metal scene, and has metal flowing through their blood. But these are very well known as, I guess, sort of guilty pleasure albums for sure. I actually picked these both up from Goodwill for about $1 each. One of the two I actually do enjoy, the other one's okay. And honestly, I don't really like much past their third album, even though I own 7 of them, and that's the band Slayer. So I have God Hates Us All, which I actually do enjoy this album. This is a little bit better than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, it's got that sort of rap vibe to it, I guess, like the new metal, but maybe it's because I came from the new metal world. I actually kind of enjoyed it. And I believe these are Rick Rubin albums, which kind of makes sense, especially from this era, because this is around the time that System of a Down was doing their releases too, and I think he was doing them as well. And they kind of give me a similar vibe, as bad as it is to say, and I know people who love the early Slayer are going to hate hearing this, but especially this era Slayer could have definitely toured with bands like Korn and System of a Down around this time too. So I also have Diabolus and Musica. So again, it's okay. It's not really my favorite. It's sort of like, kind of like owning Load and Reload in your collection. So like, why the hell do you own it? Well, literally, I think those two albums I picked up $1 each at Goodwill, and Load and Reload, I think I owned in my collection because someone gave them to me for free, and I don't even think I've listened to them since. So I think of all of the songs on both of those albums, not those two, but Load and Reload, I kind of like Fuel, right? So give me fuel, give me fire, that stupid song. I mean, that one's kind of catchy, but it's the only one I can tell you off the top of my head. Other than that, really not a fan. And with those two Slayer albums, they're okay. I'm not going to get rid of them. And again, I picked them up for like $1 each. So let me know what you think of those. And I will see you in the next video. I have one more to go, and then a whole ton of music that's not metal that are my guilty pleasures.